A decorated war hero was about to lose his home. Not to a bank, not in a war zone, but to his own Homeowners Association. His home was meant to be a sanctuary, a place of peace earned through incredible sacrifice. This is the story of what happens when that sanctuary is threatened by a petty rulebook and an HOA that went way too far. While some details have been dramatized to protect the family's privacy, their struggle is all too real. An HOA pushed a disabled veteran to the brink, starting foreclosure on his family's home over a medically necessary wheelchair ramp. They thought he was an easy target, but they made one critical mistake. They never imagined his teenage daughter would make one last call for backup to her dad's entire platoon. After 15 years in the Army and 2 tours, Sergeant Frank Miller just wanted quiet. An IED had ended his military career, leaving him with a permanent leg injury and a chest full of medals he never looked at. He, his wife, and their daughter Sarah moved into a quiet neighborhood, hoping for a normal life. Their house was their sanctuary. The one place the constant ache in his leg was his only remaining battle. He'd earned that peace. The neighborhood HOA seemed reasonable, basic rules frank, a man of order, respected. He never imagined they'd become his new enemy. But his injury worsened, and just getting through his own front door became a painful, daily struggle. The solution was simple and medically necessary: a small wheelchair ramp. It wasn't a luxury, it was his lifeline. Thinking it was a formality, Frank submitted the request to the HOA, including a letter from his VA doctor. The answer wasn't just no. It was a cold slap in the face. The HOA president, a woman named Brenda, denied the request. Her reason? Aesthetic harmony. The ramp, she claimed, would be an eyesore. Frank was stunned. He had sacrificed for the very freedoms this community enjoyed, only to be told his disability was ugly. He wrote back, patiently pointing to the Fair Housing Act, a federal law that requires HOAs to permit reasonable accommodations for people with disabilities. Denying the ramp wasn't just cruel, it was illegal. Frank assumed they were simply ignorant of the law. He was wrong. They just didn't care. Instead of backing down, Brenda and the HOA went on the attack. They saw Frank's request not as a need, but as a challenge to their power. The harassment started small. Violation notices for a trash can left out an hour too long, a few weeds by the fence. Each came with a fine. Then, they began fining him for the ramp he hadn't even built, calling it a failure to comply with aesthetic standards. The fine snowballed from $100 to over $2,000. Frank went to an HOA meeting to plead his case and was met with smirks. Brenda told him his situation didn't exempt him from the rules. When the fines became impossibly high, the HOA used its ultimate weapon. They placed a lien on his home. This is how a petty dispute becomes a nightmare. For unpaid fines, an HOA can legally start foreclosure and sell your home right out from under you. Soon, Frank received the official foreclosure notice in the mail. This wasn't a war of bullets. It was a war of paperwork, and it was breaking Sergeant Miller. Sarah watched her father, her hero, completely deflate. The light in his eyes went out. He'd sit for hours, just staring at the foreclosure notice. The fight gone. Legal aid couldn't get his case heard before the auction date, which was just weeks away. One night, Sarah heard him tell her mom, his voice cracking, "I can't fight this anymore. They're going to take our home." That was it. Something inside Sarah snapped. She refused to let her father be defeated by a petty tyrant. She went to the attic, found his old Army footlocker, and pulled out a dusty binder. His old platoon roster, a list of names and numbers of the men who called her father brother. Her hand shaking, she found the number for his former platoon sergeant, a man they called Gunny. She took a deep breath and made the call. The next Saturday morning, Frank Miller's quiet street changed. A single pickup truck parked across from his house. A man with a military posture got out and just stood there, watching. Then another car pulled up, and another. Within an hour, there were more than 20 of them. Men of all ages, some still fit and sharp, others older with the quiet intensity of men who've seen it all. They wore no uniforms, but they moved with a shared, silent discipline that was more intimidating than any army. Frank's platoon had answered the call. They didn't shout or storm the street. They simply gathered. Some brought coffee and donuts. A few started casually pulling the very weeds Frank had been fined for. Another group, led by a former combat engineer, took out a tape measure and started drawing up plans for a ramp, making sure it was perfect. Their presence was a silent, unshakable statement. This is our brother's home. You will not take it. Brenda, clipboard in hand, marched down the street to issue citations for an unauthorized assembly. She was met by Gunny, a mountain of a man with a calm voice that could cut through steel. "Ma'am," he said, "we need to talk about Sergeant Frank Miller." Brenda immediately launched into her speech about rules and regulations. Gunny let her finish. Then he spoke. "We've reviewed your bylaws," he said, holding up his own copy. "And we've also reviewed the Fair Housing Act. It's a federal law. It says you must allow for reasonable and necessary modifications for a disability." He paused. "The fines you issued are illegal. The lien you placed is invalid. And pursuing a foreclosure on those grounds is a serious violation of federal law." Another man stepped forward, handing her a business card. "I'm the platoon's lawyer," he said with a polite smile. "We've already filed a complaint with the Department of Housing and Urban Development. The civil penalties for this kind of discrimination can be tens of thousands of dollars, and that's before you pay for Frank's damages and our attorney's fees." Brenda's face went white. The clipboard dropped to her side. This wasn't a broken veteran she could bully anymore. This was an organized, intelligent, and very determined group of professionals. "The boys and I," Gunny added, gesturing to the men already mixing concrete, "are building this ramp for Frank. It will be up to code, and it will be done by lunch. You can either approve the modification right now, or you can try to explain your position to a federal judge. Your choice." The foreclosure notice was rescinded that afternoon. The fines were dropped. The ramp was built, a perfect piece of craftsmanship that gave a hero back his freedom and his dignity. The platoon's arrival was a dramatic, powerful moment, the kind of righteous justice many people who feel powerless dream of. But in the real world, the victory here wasn't won by intimidation. It was won by the law. The Fair Housing Act, and knowing the rights it protects, is the real weapon in these fights. While not everyone has a platoon on speed dial, every veteran has rights and resources. Organizations like the VA, legal aid societies, and other veteran support networks are out there to help. No one who has served this country should have to fight a war just to live in their own home. Frank's story is a reminder of the power of community and that the bonds forged in service never truly break. If you believe our veterans deserve peace and security in the homes they fought to protect, show your support by hitting that like button.